My friend, today let's talk about how to style a food buffet table in a small space. I'm Nicole with Adorn the Table. Maybe you have a really small kitchen, a dining area, or you live in a studio apartment. You're planning to host a gathering where your friends and family are coming over and you need to serve the food buffet style, but you really aren't too sure how to make it work. How is it going to be functional and attractive at the same time? Well, I'm going to share some wonderful tips and tricks that are going to help elevate the overall look and feel, but still be practical. And not only that, your friends and family are going to walk in and say, wow, that looks amazing. Because let's be honest, we all want to impress our friends and family. All right, let's get started. I want to point out that I'm not going to be using this whole kitchen island because that's not a small space. I'm really going to be cutting it off at about here, which is around 36 inches. So when I think of a small space, I go back and I think about the first place my husband and I lived in, and we had about 18 inches of counter space in the kitchen, and we had a tiny table set against the wall, and we would use that table then to create the buffet, and then everybody would go sit in the living room to eat. But that small table is roughly this 36 by 30 inch space that I have. So when you see all of these plates out here, these are our serving dishes that I'm going to be using to create and build up our food buffet. But right now, if these were filled with food, not everything would fit in this space. I mean, you can see I've got some of them stacked on top of each other. This is really our before. The other thing I want to point out is that this is what most people are used to when you're setting up a food buffet. You're just putting all of your serving pieces out flat like this, and you're just trying to shove them in and make space for them. So this is our before. Now I'm going to take and remove all of these pieces, and we're going to start building this food buffet and show you how easy it is to make it look amazing. I've removed all of the dishes from our counter, and now I want to work on the foundation for my food buffet. I like having a foundation that I'm building up off of. And when I'm talking about a foundation, I'm really referring to covering my surface. Now, I do this for two reasons. One, I'm not a big fan of the granite in our kitchen. It was what's here when we moved in, so I kind of like to hide it. But the other reason why is I find that covering it is really what's going to help aid in the overall look of the food buffet, and it's also going to tie into the occasion. So Thanksgiving is just a few weeks away, so I'm going to work off of the Thanksgiving color scheme. You've got browns, golds, yellows, reds, whereas if you were doing this for a different holiday or different occasion, build off of those colors. Christmas, you've got your reds, your greens, your whites. Maybe you're doing a baby shower, light blues, light pinks, light greens, pastel colors. Whatever the occasion is that you're going to be creating your food buffet for, start with a foundation, a color that's going to tie into that. Now, though, if you do like your countertop, maybe you've got a gorgeous quartz or a beautiful granite, you don't have to cover it. It's definitely an option. And the other thing is that you don't have to use like a tablecloth like I'm going to. There's a lot of different alternatives out there. I've got a whole video on it, which I'll put a link to it down below. With this being the idea of a Thanksgiving themed food buffet, I have two tablecloths that I was considering. I have this really nice plaid one. It's got the Thanksgiving colors in it. And I also have this dark brown one. And I've decided I'm going to go with the dark brown really because it's going to help lend itself to the other colors I'm thinking of integrating into my food buffet. I'm going to take and then just cover the area that I'm going to be using for my small space. I'm not covering the whole island, as you'll notice here. With my tablecloth in place, now I'm going to start building up my food buffet. And to really help elevate the look and feel, you want to get a few tiered pieces, things that are going to help elevate not only the look, but the height of your pieces. When you are working in a small space, you don't have a lot of horizontal space to work with. There's only so far you can lay food out. So you need to take advantage of vertical space. You need to think of building up, which is why this chip and dip set is a perfect thing for a small space food buffet. When you're looking at these two bowls and you put them next to each other, they look fine. And there's nothing, I mean, they look attractive. They look good on the table. But when you take a stand similar to this one and you put the bowls inside of it, it instantly elevates the look of what you're serving. The other thing it does is it shows that these two pieces go together, meaning you've got your chip and your dip. Now, I also love using it for salad and salad dressing. Thanksgiving, it would be perfect for your mashed potatoes and your gravy. You could do your bread and maybe some butter pats in it. But I think you get the idea. These two pieces go together. These food are in conjunction with each other. And this has also raised this small bowl up off of the counter space, and it's giving visual interest. So this is a wonderful way of incorporating height, being functional and attractive at the same time. I've got another piece I want to share with you. And that's this piece. This is a wonderful tiered tray. So you have 3 different trays in this, and you can stack them inside of it, and then you can add your plates. So what I've done now is I have actually taken 3 different plates off of my counter and stacked them vertically. So I am now going to be able to put that much more on my food buffet. These are 2 ways to gain visual height, visual interest, which is going to aid in your food buffet. I've got 2 more ways that we're going to be doing that. First one is with cake plates. Love cake plates whenever you're setting up a food buffet because elevate. They're bringing food up. You don't have to use them just for cakes and desserts. They are a wonderful pedestal base. The other thing is that because this top is sticking out, you have a narrow base on the bottom. You're going to notice what I do, but you can actually create more space on your table this way. And the next one, take something else that you have around the house that can be used as a base. This is an ugly pot insert, but it is nice and sturdy. It's got a flat top and it's not going to move around. You could use books, you can use anything that's got some good heft to it. It doesn't matter what it looks like because I'm going to show you a trick in just a moment. But this is going to help elevate some of our dishes. You'll notice that I've also kind of created a bit of a visual line here. When you are doing a food buffet, you want to think about the different heights, the way your guest's eye is going to travel. Because honestly, we eat with our eyes first. You're going to be shown a plate of food and you're going, wow, that looks really good. You've already decided if the food that's been put in front of you looks good or not. So you want to make sure with your food buffet that everything looks visually appealing. Now, honestly, this does not look all that great right now. So now I'm going to take some of these fabric pieces I have next to me and I'm going to cover and add a little bit more interest to my food buffet. Now, it honestly does not matter what you use. These are just some fabric remnants right here. And I'm going to first use this one to cover this ugly pot insert. And then this one is just another fabric remnant. You do not need to sew or do anything. You can go to your local fabric store, Hobby Lobby, and then there's almost always a remnant section. Find something that's got a little bit of drape to it, and as long as it's got the colors that you're working with, that's all that you really need. And I'm going to take this one and I'm going to cover this cake plate with it. I'm going to tuck in these extra unfinished ends here. It's really, I'm just using this for the color, and I'm kind of hiding that cake stand the same way I covered my pot over here. And I have an idea that I'm going to use this one in a little bit, but I'm going to put it aside. I did have some other pieces over here, but I've decided against using them. Now though, I want to start adding some more of those dishes that I took off, and I'm going to put them around, and I'm going to find space for them on this buffet. Notice how this cake plate is helping to elevate this bowl. It's creating that visual interest and it's bringing the bowl up off of the flat surface. And since my idea is this is Thanksgiving, I want to make sure I've got a large enough platter, which I'm going to put right down in the front. A tip I did not mention earlier is that if you're going to be creating all of these dishes yourself, it's a good idea to grab all of your serving pieces and label what you're going to be using them for. Like, kind of have them laid out in advance. That way you know if you have enough dishes, or if you need to go get something else, or if you need to borrow something from someone. It also will help you on the day of, when you're scrambling to get all of the food done, that you know, oh, that's the platter I'm using for the ham. That's the bowl I'm going to be using for the salad. Here's where everything is going to go. It streamlines it, makes it a lot easier. Notice how this cake plate gives me some space for this dish to kind of go underneath it. But at the same time, this fabric is not going to get in the way of the food. It's just giving me some more horizontal space that I would not have had if this bowl was flat on the counter. I would not have quite the space to be able to put these two next to each other. Now to add the rest of the platters and bowls. I'm feeling really good about getting all of the food dishes set. You just have to imagine them with food in them. Things to point out to you right away though is notice that I've got varying heights that allows your eye to travel. You're going to start at the base, you're going to kind of work your way up when you're looking at the food. Not everything is flat. Also, when you're creating your food buffet, try to get like food together. I think liking it to a menu when you go to the restaurant. You've got all of your starters and your colds at the top, and then you've got your entrees, and then you have your side dishes. Kind of come into the same idea, if possible, when you're setting up your food buffet. Have all of your colds, your starters, move into your main, and then get to your side dishes. You can notice that how I set this buffet up, everybody's going to come in from one direction and leave the other direction. This is not a food buffet where you're going to have two sides that guests are going to go through. This is a small space food buffet. So you're trying to bring as much into that small space, which this is going to be kind of cramped to begin with, and that's okay. This is a small space food buffet. We're trying to get as many dishes into a small space, but make it functional and attractive. I think we've got the functional part set. We're just going to amp up that attractiveness a little bit. The fabric swatches or remnants are bringing in some color and some interest. But now I want to add some little tidbits that are going to help represent the holiday and give a little bit more sparkle and interest visually for our eyes. I am not going to be going overboard with the garland or with decor. I really still want the food to be the main part. What I'm going to add to it is really going to be just backdrop and adding in just the visual aesthetic for the food buffet. I have some decorative balls. If you've watched previous videos of mine, you've seen me use these over and over again, especially for fall decor. I also have pulled off some faux flowers from some picks that I have. I am not going to be using real flowers on this. You can, but when you're going to be using real flowers on a food buffet table, you want to make sure that they don't have a scent. You don't want something like roses or lilacs, things that are going to overpower the smell of the food that you're serving. You don't want that floral smell to combat with the aromas of the food that you're serving. So I'm just going to take and put these around, again, adding visual interest to our buffet table. Our food buffet table is set in our small space. Can you believe all the dishes we were able to set in this small space? Now, quick recap. Make sure that you take care of your vertical space. You can't go horizontally, go vertically. Make sure that you've got a wonderful line of sight for your guests. You want their eyes to travel around the space. Also, keep all of the like foods together if possible. So you want your colds together, you want your sides, you want your mains, all in the relative same areas together. And then when it comes to the decor is there to enhance, not overwhelm. I see so often that people get excited about the decor and they kind of go overboard with it. You want to make sure and kind of keep it low key because it's all about the food and being able to get to the food when people are serving themselves. In this type of small space buffet, your guests are going to have their plates and their utensils someplace else. So they're going to be picking up their plates either at the table, coffee table, side table. They're going to go through the line, one end, exit the other, go sit down and enjoy the meal together. I hope this gave you some great tips and things that you can use when creating your own food buffet in your small space. If you enjoyed my video, please give me a thumbs up. It really helps my channel. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss my next video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I look forward to seeing you next time here at the table. Bye.